Hello everyone, this is Gerard aka Mr. Combat Sports and welcome to the first episode of our channel. We will be analyzing today the main event of UFC 252, the championship rubber match between Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. As of now, the score stands at 1 win apiece, with each fighter winning by knockout. At UFC 226 in 2018, DC jumped from light heavyweight all the way up to his original weight class of heavyweight and knocked out Stipe Miocic in 1 round. And then in the rematch in August 2019 at UFC 241, Stipe exacted his revenge with an exciting come-from-behind knockout in the 4th round. Now the stakes have never been higher as Stipe looks to start another title win streak at heavyweight, given that he holds the record for most title defenses in that division, while Daniel has committed to the fact that win or lose, this will be his last fight in MMA. So let us break down each one of these fighters one by one. Starting off with the champ, Stipe Miocic. He's 37 years old. He holds a record of 19 wins and 3 losses, 15 of those by knockout. Stands at a very tall 6 feet 4 inches. He's a Division I All-American wrestler and a Golden Gloves champion for the state of Ohio, so he's a well-rounded athlete. His athletic skills are also a plus. He was a baseball player in college. He's a 2-time and the current heavyweight champion. His first reign had 3 consecutive title defenses, a UFC record. On the feet, he lands 4.95 strikes per minute. That's a lot. And also, showing his good wrestling skills, he lands 2.20 takedowns per fight or per 15 minutes. So Stipe has always been a boxing-oriented fighter, but his wrestling skills he puts to good use, especially against those with knockout power. I remember the Francis Ngannou fight. Meanwhile, the challenger, Daniel DC Cormier, is already 41 years old but young in MMA miles, with 22 wins, 2 losses and 1 no contest, with 10 knockouts and 5 submissions. We all know Daniel is an Olympic wrestler, freestyle wrestling. He also competed in Greco-Roman wrestling and is an NCAA Division I All-American for Oklahoma State. He also lands at a fine clip of 4.25 strikes per minute and lands 1.95 takedowns per fight. Now that stat could be deceiving because once he takes a fighter down, he holds them down for most of the round. His claim to fame was winning the Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix, and he was an alternate. He was not an original member of the original 8. And he's the only man to hold the UFC light heavyweight and heavyweight championships at the same time. He has good power on the feet and is a very good striker, but his bread and butter is wrestling. Now we're going to look at the finishing sequence of the first fight when DC knocked Stipe out. DC was coming up from light heavyweight, was going out in his zombie-like hands-out style, trying to grab the wrists of Stipe, trying to negate the reach advantage. There was 1 eye poke, and he was warned because under the new unified rules, you can't have outstretched fingers. So there was 1 eye poke, like a break in the action, until he got the collar tie. So upon grabbing hold of Miocic's head, DC was trying to set up this right hand as the clinch was about to break. Now the secret of this knockout was not the power of the strike itself, but the surprise in which Miocic was not expecting this off the break, and the awkward angle actually when that punch landed. You see, off the break, when breaking off from clinches, fighters rarely keep their hands up. And you can see here in this sequence that the left hand or the left arm of Stipe is actually down. So DC found the opening for this right hand, and this right hand put Miocic down. Once Miocic crumpled to the canvas, the follow-up shots on the ground and pound were just academic. He was already unconscious, and DC became the first simultaneous light heavyweight and heavyweight champion, with John Anik screaming, "UFC history." Now after this fight, Stipe did not accept a fight in the interim, while DC fought Derek Lewis in November in a short notice or hastily arranged fight so that there will be a headliner in Madison Square Garden that year. So Stipe took more than a year off after that knockout, which in my opinion might have served him well, as it gave his head time to rest, and maybe that he could study the skill set of DC, because no one in the heavyweight division fights like DC. So now that he had a taste of what DC could do, I bet he was better prepared for this fight. But the second fight, the rematch, UFC 241 in Anaheim, California, it was a close fight. I think DC won the first 2 rounds, and there was this emphatic slam where he lifted Stipe up and really flipped him 360. You can remember he did that also with Alexander Gustafsson, with Dan Henderson, and with Josh Barnett as well. So the first round had DC winning it by wrestling. He almost had top position from that takedown until the end of the round. The second round had more striking in it, but DC was still holding his hands out, trying to grab the wrists in the zombie-like position. But Stipe was standing close to DC. Like they were exchanging the phone booth, exchanging at close range. And so DC was getting his punches in. So I believe DC also won that second round, and most of the judges said as well. Now the third round, this is when I believe that Miocic started to turn the tide. There was much clinching in that round, and Miocic actually took DC down briefly, so you can see his wrestling chops. Most of the round they exchanged tit for tat, punch for punch, but I believe that it was a round that Miocic won, although John Anik said it was 3-0 Cormier. But I think Miocic won that round slightly. Heading into round 4, I think both of the fighters were quite gassed, but this is when Miocic's corner tried to ask him for the body shots. I not hear them in the corner, but this is when the tide really started to turn for Miocic. His corner noticing that DC had his hands outstretched, Miocic started to look for the lead left hook to the body, and since both of these fighters stand in the orthodox stance, the right side of DC was wide open for that body shot. And we could have counted at least 11 body shots to the rib cage of DC. The final one cornered him into a post, one of the posts, the octagon post. And that's when the knockout happened. With his body hurt, DC's hands began to fall. And then Miocic unloaded a salvo of right hands to the head of DC, causing him to crumble in the side of the octagon. And he reclaimed his heavyweight title and also did a nice dance. I don't know if it's a Croatian dance or what, but he did the dance. And once again, the new heavyweight champion. So I believe this third fight, it will pick up where the second fight left off. DC will try to apply what worked best, what worked in the first fight, trying to clinch. And he has also said publicly that he told Miocic to prepare his wrestling shoes. So we can expect DC to shoot a lot, to clinch a lot. But I think Miocic has got the range. He has figured out the range already. DC will be a bit more hesitant because of the body shots that he endured in the second fight. I think Miocic will try to mix it up, head, body, maybe a few kicks. And Stipe will be more prepared. Stipe already knows that he can beat him. And when you can beat a fighter, when there is a clear path to victory, all that needs to be done is to tweak the game plan a little bit more. And I think Miocic can get this done even faster. So, with that said, this will be DC's last fight. He's had a great career. Heavyweight, light heavyweight champ, Strikeforce champ, Olympian. As much as I would like for him to ride off into the sunset with a gold belt, Stipe really is the greatest heavyweight in UFC history and in MMA history, period. Because he's already surpassed Fader in my opinion. So my pick for this fight will be Stipe Miocic, breaking DC down with head and body combinations. And I believe This will be the start of another record-breaking reign, and Stipe will finish Daniel Cormier by knockout inside of 3 rounds. Thank you, everybody. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.